All right, let's take a look at Ste-Catherine Street. The second phase of that street's big revamp gets underway this week for the next 2 years. The Grande Dame de Montréal between Mansfield and Peel will undergo a major facelift. With more on this, let's go to Glenn Castanheira, Executive Director of Montréal Centre-Ville. Hi, Glenn. Welcome back.
Hi, Elias. Thanks for having me.
So it's great to talk to you about a good thing. Last time we talked about tough times. Now we're going to talk about a good thing here. How do you view phase 2 of the Ste-Catherine Street revamp?
Well, with cautious optimism. I like comparing it to a visit to the dentist when you have a really bad toothache. We know it's going to be not the most comfortable ride, but we do expect that at the end of it, we're left with much more relief and a much healthier street. And that's what we're betting on. And we're betting on it based on the experience we got with the first phase of St. Catherine. If you've been in the area lately, you've seen Phillips Square completely transformed, giant sidewalks, a lot of new businesses that open up in the area. So that's promising. We at least know what it's going to look like when it's all done.
When you go to the dentist and you got to do that major work, the dentist will give you a medication or they'll numb the tooth, right? They'll try and make the experience as pleasant as possible. So to keep that analogy up, what's being done here to make sure the businesses that will be affected by this can get through?
That's unfortunately when it comes to the pain relief and the medication, we're not there just yet. There's a program at the City of Montreal to financially help businesses affected by work. That's very welcome. But the amounts, we're talking about $5,000 lump sum and up to $40,000. It's welcome, but it's important to know that the businesses on St. Catherine pay more than $40,000 a month in rent in many, many cases. So it's minimal. What's most important to us and what we think is really going to help limit the impact is the way the construction site is managed. And there's some positive elements here. The fact that it's very small. We're talking about, just so that your listeners understand, we're talking about St. Catherine Street between Mansfield and Peel. That's 2 blocks. Mm-hmm. So it's quite small. And we're also talking about a contractor, in this case, Eurovia, which is the same contractor that did the first phase. And that we're pretty happy about because it's a contractor that has the experience, that is really willing to do a good job and make sure that everything goes smoothly. And I would imagine because he hopes to continue the project all the way to Atwater. To us, that's very promising. Then there's also, the best practices are put in place. The fact that construction should be allowed 24/7, which means that when it comes to cutting water and electricity, these things be done at night when businesses are closed and not during the day, like it happened in many cases during the first phase. These are all elements. Some elements we're still waiting for, Elias. We've asked the city, given how important St. Catherine Street is, that they invest in mitigation for the construction site. So that they invest in beautification, in staffing people on and around the construction site to guide and greet visitors, telling them how they can go around the site or what's happening around the site, and in promoting the area during the work. Now, we have yet to get a official confirmation of these sums being invested. We are optimistic, but that would be a good shot in the arm to help take the hit.
Is it fair to say those people that have gone and looked at the section between McGill College and Blurry, if they've been through that part of St. Catherine, they know what this second phase will look like? Will it be just more of that? It is. And again, we're basing ourselves on information we have until we see the final drawings. Mm-hmm. We'll let the city convince us that that's how it's going to be. But everything indicates that the final layout of St. Catherine Street between Peel and Mansfield will be as if you do go between McGill and the Blurry, so between Quartier des Spectacles and Place Montréal Trust, you'll see that final rendering. And again, it's quite positive. Our surveys show that, users in that area, so in the new St. Catherine Street, have a much better opinion of their experience compared to the old St. Catherine Street. And can I ask you on how businesses are faring once you remove the parking and you expand the sidewalk 60% larger, so more room for pedestrians, less room to park cars. And it's funny because like on a city block, it's like 10 cars that can fit. So 10 less parking spots, let's say, or whatever the number actually is. Do you end up with more business or less? Do we know?
So actually, we do know. And thanks to the data that we've collected, despite the pandemic, we see that vacancy in the new Ste-Catherine Street is 50% lower than on the new Ste-Catherine Street. So if you look at Ste-Catherine Street between Peel and Atwater, roughly 22% vacancy rate. On the new Ste-Catherine between the Bleury and Mansfield, you're looking at 11% vacancy. That's just when it comes to business. Then we're also looking at sales. Sales seem to be slightly higher on the new Ste-Catherine Street, but above all, it's footfall and customer satisfaction much higher on the new Ste-Catherine Street versus the old. So we're in the business when it comes to downtown. You know, we're not a strip mall where you just come in, you know, park your car 5 minutes, pick up your dry cleaning and leave. We're a destination. People come from all over the world to come and experience downtown. So the experience really has to be up to par. And what we're seeing is that the new Ste-Catherine Street allows us or helps us give that level of experience that is expected from our visitors.
So you don't necessarily need parking in order to have a successful Ste-Catherine Street.
Well, in the case of Ste-Catherine Street, you need parking, just not necessarily on Ste-Catherine. And it's important to know, you know, even if you go on Fifth Avenue in New York or if you go on Michigan Avenue, Chicago, parking is part of the tools. But what's most important is accessibility. How long and how can you access it? In the case of downtown Montreal, it's the most accessible downtown in North America by public transit, right after New York.
Glenn, thanks so much for coming on, and I'm looking forward to the progress of Ste-Catherine Street. I think they did a good job with that first phase, and I'm hoping to see more of the same. Thanks so much.
Definitely. Go check it out. Cheers.
That's Glenn Castanheira, Executive Director of Montréal Centre-Ville.